Are you? 100 men. Tell me a traffic sign that best describes your love life.
Do not pass go.
Good answer.
It's up there, Steve.
Oh.
It's up there.
Oh, no, it ain't. Do not pass go.
It's up there.
Hey, unless you're driving that little car on the Monopoly board. That ain't no damn traffic sign. Them is instructions. Do not pass go. Name something that a person with long legs might not be able to fit into.
I'm going to go with long pants.
Good answer.
With me. Name something that a person with long legs might not be able to fit into. And then you said long pants.
Sorry, Steve.
No, it's okay. I don't want you to say I'm sorry. You know, I want you to, you want to take that back, don't you?
Yes, I do.
I know, but we got to check and see if it's up there now. We're looking for them long pants.
Do you want her?
You shut up. Hey, Rashad, tell me something that a pilot might turn on after the plane takes off.
The engine's already on, so the engine. Good answer. Good answer.
Folks, we're at 33,000 feet right now, and fasten your seatbelts. I'm gonna turn these engines on and see if we can maintain altitude. Rashad suggested that we turn on the damn engine.
Hello, everybody. My goodness gracious. Welcome back to the shack here in the Pacific Northwest of Oregon. My name's Larry. My call sign is Kilo 7 Hotel November. The show is called Ham Radio Live. Want you to please hit that subscribe button. We don't put dangerous additives in our shows here, so you don't have to worry about hitting that skip ad button for, that 5-second eternity where you're screaming, "Oh gosh, make it end! No!" There's no ads here. Simple to listen to and watch from start to finish. You can help us out by simply hitting that subscribe button so, people that might have an interest in ham radio can find the channel and maybe just find a hobby for life. I want to welcome our good friends all the way in Europe, starting up early today. Hello, everybody. Welcome. This is truly, I think you might be very shocked. It's going to be a big show.
We have a big show for you tonight.
Yeah, we do, in the words of Ed Sullivan. Welcome to the show. Today is Thursday, the 18th, February 2021. Excuse the voice. Still dealing with a cold here, thanks to my brother Bob. Welcome to the show. Okay, a few things of business. Let's talk about what we're going to do here today, because there's a lot in this show. This may be the most helpful Ham Radio Live show that I've ever done. There's going to be information in here of how to remote a unit that could help you, that maybe, you don't want to get one of those remote controls, or you don't want a computerized radio like an SDR or whatever. I don't know. But let's say you want to put a ham radio somewhere else in your home that's more comfortable for you to work. I'll show you how I did mine, okay? Also, we're going to be working on something pretty special in this show, and that has to do with working the world. Do you know where other amateurs can actually work? This is a big show because it's going to talk about band plans throughout the 3 IARU regions in our world. Yeah, what the band plans actually are. And you're going to find that not all countries stick exactly to the region's band plans. Welcome to the show today. Excited to see you. Let's get some welcomes in. First, Andy from the UK, as well as Stu Foster coming in from the United Kingdom. Hello, my friends. Good evening to you. It's good to see you. Thanks for coming. Nikolai is here from Romania. Always a pleasure. Thank you. Andy Bronson as well from the UK. Mike 7, X-Ray Tango Tango. Good evening to you, Andy. I wish you the very best. Thanks for being here. Speaking of the UK, John's here studying for, excuse me, I said UK, Canadian, studying for his Canadian basic exam. John, good luck, man. That's the Canadian class licenses are pretty intense. They really are. I've worked with some of their online stuff. It's like, ooh, it gets pretty technical. And it's probably part of the reason why Canada is the #1 power output country in the world at 2.25 kilowatts. They can transmit that much. So it's welcome to the show to you too, John, in Canada. It's a pleasure. Andy, D2 Echo 0, Romeo Echo Echo. And James is here. Be back when I have taken the station manager, the dog. That's great. And when he comes back, he'll be back. He's Mike 7, Bravo, X-Ray Tango. Thank you, James. Welcome to the show, everybody, wherever you may be around the world. Today's show, a lot of fun, should be wrapped up with a lot of information for you. Now, the passion of this channel is to bring people into ham radio in a way that's not nerdy or so technical that they just don't watch. It's supposed to sound like a radio show. It's supposed to be welcoming and inviting and hopefully a little funny sometimes, but the point is it's supposed to be different because we're trying to attract people to come into ham radio without inundating them with so much technical knowledge that their minds explode and then they turn off YouTube. That's why also there's no ads here. So we're going to start real quick with just a handful of questions on the technician exam. This is the first license level in the United States. It gets you on the air. Okay. Now this is just the first step. In the US, there are 3 levels: the technician, the general, and the amateur extra. We do technician questions here on Tuesdays and Thursdays, generals on Monday, Wednesdays, amateur extras are always Fridays. So we'll give you a few questions here on the technician to hopefully help you get licensed on the air. First question, what is component 2 in figure T1? Remember, circle with a T. Whenever you see that circle, that's a transistor. And if you look carefully at it, you use your imagination. That's what I always did. Sometimes it actually worked for me. If you look sideways to it, it makes a T. There's a wire going in. Then you see the big, bold vertical line, right? That's the T part, okay? And that's the transistor. So other things here, number 4 is a battery. Number 3 is a lamp. You can kind of see the little glass bulb over the element there. Number 1's a resistor, and 5, there's 3 of them there. Those are all grounds, okay? There's that one. Next question on the U.S. technician exam for the United States. What is the proper abbreviation for megahertz? And the reason I put this in this show, because this show should be a pretty heavily watched show because of the content it has. And because we're trying to help people get licensed in ham radio, this is so important because it helps you with different questions that are on the ham radio test, okay? The man who developed frequency science was named Heinrich Hertz, okay? Hertz. He was a brilliant man, okay? We honor him by using his name as well as the amount of frequency we have. So the first letter is always the level or the number, okay, of the unit. Then it's followed in hertz. So the first letter is always capitalized. Say it's mega, okay? Mega. No, it means a million, right? Mega, and then Hertz. Because his name was Hertz, Heinrich Hertz, we capitalize the H. So in this case, M for mega, Hertz. capital M, capital H, lowercase z. Okay? Same thing for kilohertz. Kilo means 1,000. Okay? Kilo, the K is going to be capitalized. The H will be capitalized because of Heinrich Hertz. Same thing with gigahertz. It's always the same. First two are capitalized. If you look carefully at this question, you only see one that matches that. And the other three are kind of close, but they kind of mix up the letters. Remember, the first two are always capitalized. And there's multiple questions like this on the exam, okay? So we're talking about megahertz, okay? Same thing with decibels. It's honoring Alexander Graham Bell. And so deci and then bell is both capitalized, D and B, dB. We use that to measure the signal strength, also the gain of antennas. That's the term that we use. So remember, capitalization of the first two characters. That's going to help you on many questions on the FCC exam. Next question. Electrical power is measured in the following units. Please don't confuse electrical power with electromotive force, okay? Electromotive force is the volt, but keep in mind what this question asks. It asks how it's measured, okay? To give you an idea, it's always measured in watts. That's why, light bulbs are in watts. If you look at the back of a television, watts. Look at a space heater, watts. It's all in watts. Wattage determines how much power it takes to operate your item. Same with your ham radio, okay? It's measured in watts. Let's say, for example, it's a ham radio. It needs power, okay? That's electromotive force. That's voltage, okay? The more voltage it can get, the better. So it tries to pull the voltage in fast, okay? But to power it, you need amperage. Amperage is the amount of power it takes to actually operate the radio, okay? And that amperage, when you're using it in your ham radio, is measured in watts. That's how it's all measured. So voltage, electromotive force, that's the pressure of the electricity coming into your home or in through your circuitry, okay? Amperage is the amount of power that can go through that circuit, in a second. And then it's measured in wattage. So if you keep that in mind, watts is how electrical power is measured, you'll be fine. Learn just how basic electricity works. It's actually quite fascinating when you think about it. Think of, electromotive force or voltage, pretty much like a water faucet. When you turn it on and off, okay? Some kitchen faucets, you lift them up or bring them down. Okay, that's the pressure that comes down. You adjust it by going up and down. Voltage works the same way. And your circuit breakers in your power box, or maybe it's fuses you still have, could be either one, but that controls just how much goes into that circuit, okay? And it's protected by wiring. Keep in mind, the wiring is also specific for that circuit as well. So please, if you get in a ham radio and you see, gosh, man, I've got my radio here and I've got a tuner and a computer and I've got this new amplifier and it's popping circuit breakers, it's not enough to go down to your circuit breaker box and throw in a 20 amp circuit breaker, because you still have 14 gauge wire in your walls. You'll overheat your wire. So you need to bump it up to a 20 amp circuit breaker and change it to 12 average gauge wire. Okay, that's basically it. So that's a little tutorial in a way on electricity and working it in your ham shack. Okay, next question on the general exam, in the technician exam, the US. We're going to do 3 more. How is a computer sound card used when conducting digital communications? All you do with the sound card is you connect it to your computer. The sound card provides audio to the radio's microphone input, so it connects to the mic's radio input. On most transceivers, that's going to be in the back. It's the rear microphone in, okay? And it just converts the received audio into a digital format. So sound cards, this is what helps you use digital modes, okay? Things like FT8 or JT65, could be Olivia or Hellschreiber, could be a lot of different digital modes. but it's all done this way. The sound card works through your mic input, and then it transmits it out to the world, okay? Next question, last of three. Sorry, second to last. What is the function of an automatic gain control, or AGC? Automatic gain control on a receiver is just to try and keep the received audio relatively consistent, okay? It's constant audio. Otherwise, if you didn't have it, your signals would increase in volume and decrease as they, go down way too much. AGC allows more stability on the receiver to maintain a stable volume. Really, that's what it's designed to do, okay? So your automatic gain control is really there to help you make your radio sound easier to listen to. That's the best description for AGC, okay? For sideband, most manufacturers will tell you to turn it to slow, okay? You don't need a ton of AGC there, but on CW, you're going to need more. That's where you're going to speed it up. Digital modes can be high AGC because you're really trying to pull in signals. Okay, last question on the technician for today. We've got a lot to cover. Okay, we'll cover both. This is fast. Okay, what property of radio waves is often used to identify the different frequency bands? Okay, it's done by the approximate wavelength. Okay, it's just the amount of times that a complete cycle of the radio wave, meaning it goes up in an arc and back down, goes down through that center point and comes back up. So it goes up, down, and up. Okay, that's a wavelength. So it's the amount of the approximate wavelength and identifying them. And notice this question says, and this is important, okay, the approximate wavelength. The answer says the approximate wavelength. And the reason why it is this way, if you actually use radio theory math to do this, okay, and you're going to say, for example, because the correct way to do it is you take 300 and divide it by the frequency. Now, this simply will never give you 40 meters. It just doesn't. It will not give you 20 unless you're really on a small portion of it, okay? And it doesn't give you 17 either. That's why it says the approximate wavelength. We use 20, 40, 17 as just markers, basically. They're historic. They've been there forever, and they just are the way they are, but they don't add up mathematically, okay? Last one. Which of the following bands may provide for long-distance communication during the peak of the sunspot cycle? Okay, so when we get tons of sunspots, the ionosphere around our Earth gets highly charged. When our radio signals bounce up, because our signals in HF, not VHF or UHF, but HF, which is high frequency, when we transmit really up. That's what we do. Excuse me. So we try and do a low takeoff angle to the horizon because our signals go up to the ionosphere and then bounce back down. Okay, that's called skip. But the point is, it's the ionosphere that makes it work. During a high sunspot period, the sunspots add more radiation to the ionosphere, making it highly charged. So when we send our signals up to it, it vibrates very, very quickly, and it reflects our radio waves back down to Earth. Okay, that's really how it works. And because the sunspot cycle is up at the top, right, and there's a ton of ionization to the atmosphere, it helps to bring in 6 or 10 meters, which are two frequencies, one of them on the HF bands, 6 meters on the VHF bands, but they both work better because the sunspots have really charged the ionosphere. Consequently, when we're on the low part of the sunspot cycle, like right now, 6 and 10 are more difficult to work. Kind of. Okay, kind of. We had a 10-meter contest not long ago, and it was like on fire. Tons of people. People, if they get on the frequencies, you'll find that they're working. They really are, but you just got to get people to use those frequencies. All right, welcome to the show. All right, so first of all, let me show you how I did my remote area for my rig, and I love it. I have just enjoyed the heck out of it. In fact, first call was to New Zealand. It was just fun. It made radio fun for me because it's hard for me to sit for long periods of time. I mean, there's a reason there's a pillow back here and an ice bag. It's hard to sit for me for long periods of time. So I needed to come up with a solution. And I looked into radios that I could use remotely, like a Flex, okay, and do a Maestro, or perhaps get a K3 Mini or something like that. I really thought about it. I thought, no, you know what I'd like? I'd like a radio. The radio would be perfect. So what I did, at least for me, was I put my radio right near my zero gravity chair, okay? I'm going to show you what it looks like, and I'll show you how I did it, okay? This is the view from my front room and where my radio is, okay? That's my zero gravity chair on the right, the black chair, and there's the FTDX 10. I simply use it right there to my left side. I've got my notepad, I've got my mouse and the mic, and I've had a ball because I can just sit in comfort using my radio from there instead of up here in the shack. It's been wonderful, something I've enjoyed thoroughly. And I'll tell you quickly how I did it. I don't want to spend too much time here because this is something that we've got more important stuff to work on. All right, here's my antenna switch. What I did was I simply took my outside antennas, which are at the top. This is side view of it, but the antennas come in, which would look like in this picture, top right. Okay, there's my antennas. Okay, and then on the bottom, I've got my transceiver choices. Okay, so I have the FTDX 101 here, the FTDX 5000s hooked up, the 7300, and the FTDX 10. All right. The FTDX 10 goes where that red SO239 comes out on the left side of the photo. That then comes out of my shack. It goes down the side of the house, around and to where my front room is, and it ends right at my zero gravity chair. Then what I did was I just simply cut a nice ground wire, similar to what I have up here in my shack, and ran it to a ground that is right there outside the window. So it's a short ground. I just got a small power supply, a simplex power supply, and hooked that right up, and it's going like gangbusters. It's fantastic. Just switch the antenna switch to wherever, whichever antenna I want to use, for that period of time. And then I just go downstairs and play radio. It's wonderful. If you want to move your rig or take a rig somewhere more comfortable for you, maybe your den, could be your bedroom, something like that, all you'd have to do is just simply use a switch like this, run your wire to a close ground. That's important. Then just buy a little power supply. I mean, I didn't get a very expensive one. I think mine was $110, but it's very well built and very well reviewed. Then run your coaxial cable. If you need to run it up through your walls and then into your attic and down, you could certainly do that. If you want to run outside, you could do it that way too. But it gives you a comfortable position to be able to use your ham radio if you'd like to use it in a different place in your house, okay? There's that. All right, now let's talk about the big deal of the show. This is important. If you want to work the world, it's important, I think, that you know how the world works too. In the United States, we're really in a place where we're focused on what we can do, but we may not have a good understanding of what the rest of the world can do, right? Makes a big difference. Let me get to your comments real quick just to catch up and say hello to you, because this is going to be a pretty powerful segment, all right? Will Myers, Kilo Alpha 8, Golf India Mike. Always a pleasure, Will. Man, you're a regular. If I had punch cards to give out, you'd have at least a free coffee by now. Dave in Southern California. He's here from Temecula Whiskey 6, Charlie Radio Tango. Dave, welcome to the show. Gunter is here from well, not really Wiesbaden. You're in, I don't think the name of the country. You're Germany, but oh man, it's on the tip of my tongue. It's like something river right by Wiesbaden. But welcome to the show, Gunter. Good to see you, man. Welcome. Good. Jim is here. He's Whiskey X-Ray 7 Quebec from Colfax, Washington. Jim, I'm working on a 590 SG purchase. I'm that close. We'll see. It depends a little bit of stuff. We'll have to see. Glenn's here from VK. Good to see you, Glenn, Australia. Always a pleasure. Thanks for coming. Greg is here. He is Kilo Fox Zero, Charlie Union Zulu. And thank you. That's very kind of you to say that. Thank you so much. Aw, thanks, Gunter. Appreciate it. That's my favorite room. When we rebuilt our home after our fire, my wife and I got one wish, okay? We each got one. And my wife's was a certain granite that she wanted in the kitchen. Mine was my fireplace. I wanted the fireplace to look real nice. So that was that. Hey, Tom is here as well from Bahrain. Tom, welcome to the show. Good to see you. Good to see you as always, man. Just yesterday, this little bugger here, I was having a little bit of issue, I think, with my preamp. Sorry about that. Not sure what's going on. Maybe we need to reboot. Speaking of, there's that noise again in this. I hate that noise. Goodness sakes. All right. Speaking of, working at possibly having to upgrade this computer just because of the streams. There's so much in the stream in terms of all the video elements, the photos, all the digital information that goes in. It's just crawling. So if this thing gives you a problem, understand that's what's going on. And I'm very sorry it happens. Okay. Let's get to band plans. All right. In the U.S., we are really focused on what we can do, as we should be. Okay. In the U.S., we're all used to seeing this. This is produced by the HRL, which means American Radio Relay League. And it tells us which areas of each frequency band that we can use depending upon our license class. Okay. This same kind of format is used all over the world, by the way. It's the same thing. All right. So there's some areas here that stand out compared to the rest of the world that you may not know about, and you should, because there is a big difference in what the world can do and what we can do here. Good example, 80 meters. Take a look at 80, 3.5 to 4 megahertz. Now, technically, we know 80 and 75 are the same. Okay, the split is at 3.750. Anything below that is technically 80 meters because 3.750 electrically is exactly 80. So 75 is up. So we can go to 4 megahertz there. You can't do that in Europe. You can't do that in Asia. You can't do it in Australia. You can't do it in New Zealand, and you can't do it in the Philippines. Okay, so regions 1 and 3 can't go that high on 80, all right? 160 even is different. We start at 1.8 megahertz, okay? We end at 2. In region 1 and in region 3, 160 is up a little higher. It starts at like 1.810. We'll go over that in a little bit. 40 meters is also very different around the world. We're blessed to have 7 to 7.3 megahertz, okay? That's our band plan. However, if you're in Europe, you can't go to 7.3. You end at 7.2. And the reason for that is there's broadcast stations that are nearby that's in that frequency spectrum. So they simply don't allow transmissions by amateurs from 7.2 to 7.3 on 40 meters. So here in the U.S., and also, by the way, in places like Australia, you can go to 7.3, but not in Europe and areas of region 1. Let's look at what that means, because we talk about it in the test, but a lot of people don't realize the regions. Let's talk about what those regions actually look like so you have an idea of what countries are involved here. Okay, here they are. Region 1 is Europe, Russia, Africa, Middle East, okay, Scandinavia, all of that. That's region 1. Region 2 is, of course, North America, South America, Central America, includes Hawaii, okay. Region 3 is South Asia, so the southern part of Asia, which would include China, India, Korea, of course, Australia, New Zealand, New Guinea, the Philippines, Malaysia, all of those areas. Okay, that's region 3. Now, How we all work together on the ham bands is, for the most part, very consistent. There's not a whole lot of difference. However, when we get to areas where there's DX to be made, it can be different. For example, let's look at Japan, 80 meters. Here's the 80 meter band right now in Japan, all right? Notice it starts at 3.5 megahertz and it ends at 3.805. That's it. 3.805 is the end of technically 75, but it's called the 3.8 megahertz band in Japan, all right? So we can't do any DX from 3.805 all the way to 4 if you're trying to work Japan. That's something to understand in the US and for other countries as well. All right, let's go to 40 meters. Take a look at what the Japanese have on 40. Notice this, 7.2. 7.2 is the end of the 40 meter band in Japan. We don't have that issue here in the US. We don't. And let's take a look at New Zealand, because you'll see something here and the notice, okay? It goes to 7.3, but take a look above. And this is common with region 3. There, look above 40 meters. There is no 60 meter allocation in New Zealand. Okay, you see what they say there. A trial was carried out on 60 meters using 2 3 kilohertz wide channels made available by the New Zealand Defence Force. To operate in this trial, a special license from the New Zealand Amateur Radio Tech, I don't know what the T stands for, was required. This trial has concluded. NZART is still attempting to obtain an allocation on 60 meters for New Zealand amateurs. Okay, so there's no 60 meters in New Zealand or in Australia or in Japan. Okay, so that's important to know. Look also here, 80 meters, New Zealand. It ends at 3.9. See that? 3.9 megahertz is the end of 80/75 in New Zealand. All right. How does that compare a little bit west of there to Australia? Let's take a look. 40 meters. Notice 40 meters in Australia, they can go all the way to 7.3, which is good, right? So they go at 7.3. And, just like we have here in the US, they can do 7.3 there in Australia. But let's take a look again at 60. Okay, at 60 meters, look what it says in Australia. This band is not yet available for use in Australia. Notice also there are 4 channels there. The US has 5. Okay, so those are the channels that they looked at doing, but haven't got it yet. It's not available for use. What about 80 working in Australia? Here's VK. 80 meter band starts at 3.5, ends at 3.8. Notice the DX window there, very bottom before it goes into blue text. DX window on 80 meters from Australia is 3.776 to 3.8 megahertz. Very important. Okay, so if you want to work some DX on technically the 75 meter band, that's where you'll find it, most likely from folks in Australia. So cool to talk to people there. Love it. Love it. Also, something else in New Zealand, by the way. In New Zealand, the law in New Zealand says that they have to give their call sign every 15 minutes. Every 15 minutes, they have to give their call sign. Of course, we know in the US, it's every 10 minutes and at the end of a transmission. Rules are different around the world, and getting to know how they work is very important if you want to work them. You don't want to be calling for Australia, on 3.9 megahertz on 80 meters because they can't use that frequency. Let's continue on. All right. Let's look at region 1. Okay. Region 1, then we'll get the map back up just so you can see it again. Region 1 is pretty much Europe, the Middle East, and all of Russia. Okay. So when we take a look at the IARU map, take a look at region 1. All right. In region 1, depending upon where you are, the rules are different. Same with power levels. It's interesting. Okay. When you're talking about power levels around the world alone, there are huge differences. Okay. US, of course, we know is 1500 watts. Canada, 2.25 kilowatts. You can use a kilowatt if you're in Belgium, Luxembourg, Switzerland, and New Zealand. Germany, you can use 500 watts. Excuse me, I'm sorry, 750. 750 watts if you're in Germany. If you're in Italy, 500 watts. So Italy is limited to 500. If you're in Australia, India, and the United Kingdom, 400 watts. Okay? So there's some real differences that we have to understand when we're talking about, we talk about our amplifiers here being, 1500 watts. Well, the top they can do in New Zealand, 750, Germany, 500, UK and Australia, 400 watts. Also, South Africa on the 11th of January petitioned, the amateur group down there petitioned for 60 meters, 400 watts. No kidding, 400 watts. Strangely enough, too, in South Africa, it's one of the only places I found that actually determined and defined that sideband must be 2.7 kilohertz wide, period. And they define it. That's it, 2.7, unless you're on 10. If you're on the 10 meter band, you can go 6 kilohertz wide if you're above 29 megs. So that's South Africa. And we'll see what happens with that, with them getting 400 watts on 60 meters. Wow, it's huge. It's a big difference. Big difference. Gunter, yeah, I said 7.2. Yep. So we take a look at the rest of the band, and let's take a look, for example, if we want to really get a good idea of how the map works and how these countries try and work together. One of the places I think that is quite interesting is if you look at Region 1's band plan, and I know this is small, I'll do my best to bring it up for you so you can see it real well. This would be Region 1. We talked about this in the last part of this segment. This is Europe, this is Russia, this is the Middle East, this is Africa, okay? Take a look at 160. It starts at 1810. So instead of 1800 or 1.8 megahertz, in Region 1, it starts at 1.810, okay? 80 meters, ends at 3.8, okay? There is a 60 meter band there. See? 3 channels right there. So 60 meters is available in Region 1. But it depends where you're at, because each country has their own rules. Here's a great example. Here's Italy. Here's their band plan in Italy. I know it's small, okay? And I'll do my best to try and make it a little better for you. If you're watching on a larger screen, yeah, obviously this will be helpful to you. But in Italy, you've got the 160 meter band starting all the way up at 1830. So 1.830 starts 160, okay? On 80, they're 3.5 to 3.8, okay? On 40, they end just like the rest of Region 2 at 7.2, okay? There is not a 60 meter band in Italy. Now there is in Australia and in New Zealand, in South Africa, in different places of Region 1, there is a 60 meter band. However, in Italy, no 60. See, it's missing. This is common with different areas of the world, okay? The Philippines is a great example of radio and how it's different in Region 3 than it is in, say, Japan or New Zealand or Australia, okay? In the Philippines, you can go to 7.3, which is wonderful, okay, on 40 meters, okay? New Zealand also has 60 meters. It's one of the few countries in Region 3 that actually does use 60. Keep that in mind as well, Okay. So when you're working in the world, remember and don't hesitate to go online and take a look at different countries' band plans, because it does make a huge difference in exactly what you can and cannot do. Okay. You don't want to be calling, for Australia at 3.9 megs, like we just said. You don't want to try and work United Kingdom if you're in the US at 7.225 because they can't transmit there. So keep that in mind. The rest of the frequencies are pretty much the same. 20 meters ends at 14,325. The band plan is laid out exactly the same way. In fact, let's take a quick look at that so you can get a good idea. If you're in region 1, which I like to focus on a little bit here because we like to work Europe. A lot of us do here, and it's hard to work from the West Coast where I live. But still, Europe is such a great place to work because there's so many countries there. So let's go here to region 1 again. This is Europe. And this is just going to cover 160 to 70 meters, to 5 megs, but it gives you a good idea. Okay. It's split up just like ours is in the US, but it's not hard to look for. If you just want to know more about the rest of the world, take a look at it, because you might find that the rest of the world works differently than we do. So if you want to work that area, please look into it. Look into it. This is just a short showing of how the world works differently than we work here in the United States. It's an opportunity to open our eyes up a little bit to see, okay, well, they're limited here on 40. Well, we can work with them here on 80. Okay. Those are great areas. For example, the area I told you about 3.776 to 3.8 megahertz in Australia. That's their national DX window. That's where they're going to try and call out. Okay. Got one more little tidbit for you. And I think you'll get a kick out of it because it's interesting to note this, because it's something that I think a lot of people just won't catch. It's a little tiny catch that's been on the US band plan forever. Okay. Let me show you real quick, because this is funny. Okay. If you look closely, real close at the US band plan, you'll see this. Look at 40 meters carefully. Okay. 40 meters. Look at that. 40 meters. See the top? There's a green section, 7.075 to 7.1 megahertz. Okay. See that? Do you know where that is? You might be surprised. Look what it says. ITU. So the, IRAU sections 1 and 3. So regions 1 and 3 can use that portion. Also, FCC region 2, west of 130 degrees west, or below 20 degrees north. Okay, so that's in our region, right? US region 2, west of 130 degrees west, or below 20 degrees north. Well, let's just go and, just for fun, let's open up the US map and take a look at this, because by gosh, we're hams. We love maps, right? Here's the United States. Let's take a look at longitude and latitude here. Remember, we need to be below 20 degrees and west of 120 degrees. Now, nobody here works. We've got to move. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. There's one other place in the US, just one, that just might work. Let me show you what that is. It's Hawaii, but not all of Hawaii. It's the big island of Hawaii, right there, below 20 degrees. That's the exception. That's the one exception, the FCC band plan. Now, there's something that you might not know. Isn't that funny? That's how it works. So, yeah. And Mexico, by the way, our neighbors to the south, 1,250 watts is what they can use down there. So we got 2,250 above us here in Canada, 1,500 in the US, and 1,250 watts in Mexico. Yeah. So that's it. Know where you're working around the world. And I'll tell you what, and I'm going to really just, and I'm going to make American mad, going to make American hams mad here. I'm not trying to incite a big old YouTube riot. This is the reason why Europeans are so good with antennas, because they get it. You can do so much more with an antenna to get gain, meaning make your signal sound better on the other end, than you can with an amplifier, because they've had to do that, because they have limits on how much power that they can use. So they've developed a really good way to send out their signal. They work hard on antennas and antenna theory. That's why Callum, DX Commander, is brilliant, because he only have 400 watts to work with. So he tries to make the most out of that 400 watts by making antennas that'll be having gain, good gain to transmit to different areas of the world. That's why European hams are so good at what they do. And why I think a lot of American hams just say, yeah, I'll pick the OptiBeam and that 1500 watt amp. I think Europeans do it more with finesse, and Americans try and do it more with brute force. I would love, and I can tell you from experience, I'm one of them. I am. I'm one of them that got in and said, oh man, hey, gotta do it. Gotta get more power, man. Yeah, just get that power. Get that amplifier. Boy, I'm going to be solid. And then I built my first resonant antenna. And I can tell you that antenna makes much more difference than that amplifier has ever made. Now, combination of both of them, pretty powerful. That's the truth. But the antenna is so much more important than an amplifier. Young hams, listen carefully. Your most important investment in your ham radio shack isn't your ham radio. It is your antenna. If you're looking at a $3,000 transceiver, instead of spending $3,000 for a transceiver, go out and spend $2,500 for a really good antenna. Seriously, spend the money there. It's not sexy. It doesn't look good. It's not fun. I get it. Go out and buy yourself a $1,000 ICOM 7300. Put it on that antenna with good quality feed line of, say, LMR 400, and you're going to fall in love with ham radio the rest of your life. You will, because you bought a great antenna to begin with. You thought the right way. Most of us don't do that. Buy a great antenna. And if you want a real good piece of advice that will help you get started in ham radio, and for hams that maybe are struggling with getting contacts, the DX Commander all-band vertical isn't that expensive. Okay, if you know antenna theory in the US, 234 divided by frequency, that's your cut. You cut your ground radials to that at the lowest frequency you want to work. Mine are at 40 meters. So cut your ground radials. I have 8. And then I just ran the wire up. I had very little trimming, 1.07 to 1. Okay. That antenna screams. It just does. When I finally started building resonant antennas, ham radio became knockout fun. But when I used compromised antennas, like multi-band dipoles and stuff, it was fun. Absolutely fun. Great. It was great. Don't want to, off track bad. But a resonant antenna versus a multi-band dipole, there's no comparison. There's just none. None. So please learn how to build your own antenna. They're not hard to do. If you need help, give Callum a call over at DX Commander. He'll listen to you and he'll help you. You can certainly get a hold of me as well. I am not a huge antenna expert, but I do know how to build a resonant antenna now, and I'd be happy to help, okay? Your big help working DX starts at your antenna outside. All right, final comments before we close the show. My goodness, y'all are active, very active. That means Larry, talked way too long.
Go!
What it means. Okay, and Gunter from Germany, and this is saying for us, West Coast USA is a hard mount to work from European. Even if you got a monoband beam up on a 100-foot tower, it is. It's a tough bounce. It's a tough skip to make from the European continent here to the West Coast. From here, for example, I have to beam at 21 degrees to hit Gunter in Germany. That's the number. I've checked. It's 21 degrees. And if I turn a directional antenna that way, it's my best chance to work him. However, I could work him long path too. But the point is, it's a tough one. It's tough for us to do. South Africa could be tough for us as well. Yeah, Gunter, great comment. That's great. Tom, Bahrain, there we go. Limited to 500 watts in Bahrain. See, we get power and we think about it, it's like 1.5 kilowatts. So we take it for granted. Most of the world can't work anywhere near that, truly. See, Gunter, a friend of mine, told me that years back they were allotted to run 4 kilowatts on shortwave down. Yeah, you could. Oh, yeah, shortwave. Yeah. Oh, Gunter, there's shortwave stations that are running 1,000,000 watts plus. Believe it or not, no joke, 1,000,000 watts plus. WRMI down in towards Miami, it's in South Florida. They're like 1.6 million watts on shortwave. Huge. And they're running directional. Unbelievable. Tom says from Bahrain, this is why I've kept my extra class CEPT, which is basically it's a transfer piece of license, which shows another country I have passed my ham radio license. I should have full privileges here based on these credentials. Okay. And then that country will give you a reciprocal license. That's what it does. So what Tom says here is he says, that's why I have my extra class SEPT radio amateur license recommendation. TR 61-01 allows U.S. amateur extra and U.S. advanced licenses to operate in European Union countries. Exactly. Yeah. Good point. And that's also on the test. Yeah. Gunter says 1,500 watts in Croatia. I have to look at that. I didn't check Croatia. It's tough to check every country in the world. But he says they could go 1,500. It's the most that they can run in Europe. I'll have to look at that. I'm not sure. But that's interesting if it is. Yeah, because UK is at 400. And y'all there in Germany are at 750. Hi, Fred. Fred's joining us in Washington State. It's good to see you, Fred. Thanks for being here. So let's see. Final pieces. Ken Gray. This is a great comment. His call sign's Golf 3 Whiskey November Radio. Ken, thank you for being here. Sort the antennas first, then see if you need the big linear. It may save you a lot. Gosh darn it. Ken, exactly. That's it. Yes. New hams, save yourself thousands of dollars in money and millions of hours of grief by just buying the antenna first. Get a good antenna. Talk to other hams. Find out from them what they think a good antenna is. But don't just take their advice. Go and take a look on eHam at reviews of it. You're going to find out more about it from people in ham radio that way. Then talk to people at ham radio stores. Let them know what you're interested in doing, okay? Whether it's HF or VHF or whatever. But just ask them their opinion, okay? But spend the money up front for a great antenna. Compromise first on maybe not getting that slick whiz-bang radio that has the cool display at first, because you'll be better off with an LCD display HF transceiver and an excellent antenna than you will with a whiz-bang pop and screen ham radio that can't hear or transmit as well as it could if you'd spent your money on antenna and feed line. That's the whole point. Spend your money wisely. Top down, great antenna, great feed line equals great radio, no matter what you plug into it. Because right now, that antenna and feed line are solid. You will always love ham radio if you do it that way. Thanks for watching, everybody. Ham Radio Live isn't monetized. Notice you didn't see any commercials here. We also have a growing list of subscribers that truly humbles me. I want to take a moment to say thank you for that. It does mean a great deal. The passion of this channel is to help get people on the air in a more relational way that isn't real technical, and it's not overly boring, and it's not overly done. Just human, just live every day at 1900 UTC, or plus or minus. Usually it's late, but I try. But my point is, we thank you for subscribing. I truly do. And I thank you for how long you watch. That to me is the most humbling stat of all, the numbers of how long you're here. Thank you. God bless you for that. Thank you. We're trying to help people get into ham radio here. You subscribing helps tremendously for this channel to be found by others who have an interest in ham radio. Have a very good Thursday. We'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Tomorrow's show, hopefully, will be showing you the antenna build. It's a little bit dicey weather still here. I'm trying, but I don't know if I'll get it done, but I'll do my best. Antenna build on the multi-band dipole that I'm building now because I'm waiting to get another antenna for the one that snapped in the ice storm on Saturday. But that'll be tomorrow. And then, of course, CQ Calling, powered by MFJ, will be live at 0100 UTC on Saturday. So, till tomorrow, thank you so much for watching. God bless you. Have a wonderful day, everybody. And I just want you to enjoy this sign-off. It's pretty cool. It's from the, I think it was the mid-'80s, from the upper Midwest. I did this for Thor. Thor, if you're here, I hope you enjoy. Goodbye, everybody.
This concludes today's telecasting activities from WQAD-TV, Activate, Moline, Illinois. Activate is owned and operated by the Quad Cities Communications Corporation with studios located at 3003 Park 16th Street, Moline, and its transmitter at Orion, Illinois. Quad Cities Communications Corporation is a wholly owned subsidiary of the Des Moines Register and Tribune Company, which operates the Register Broadcast Group stations. Other broadcasting operations in the Register Broadcast Group include KHON-TV, Honolulu, Hawaii, WIBA AM and FM, Madison, Wisconsin, KLAK AM and KPPL FM serving the greater Denver area, KYXI AM, Oregon City, Oregon, and KGON FM, Portland, Oregon. Activate broadcasts by authority of the Federal Communications Commission on Channel 8. Activate has an effective radiated power of 282,000 watts visual and 56,200 watts aural. Our studio transmitter microwave link is KFO25, operating on 6,950 to 6,975 megahertz. Portions of today's programming were mechanically reproduced. Activate subscribes to and is a member in good standing of the NAB Code of Good Practices. Activate is an equal opportunity employer. In keeping with its policy of providing balanced programming which serves the needs and interests of the community, Activate welcomes your comments. Write to WQAD-TV, 3003 Park 16th Street, Moline, Illinois, 61265.